Well, folks, today we are going to be doing our official May prediction for the 2026 Senate race. Now, we talk a lot on this channel about the Senate races, but we haven't put out an actual prediction how we think it's going to go. So right now, we know that the Senate is controlled by the Republicans, 53 seats for the Republicans, 47, it's actually 45 seats for the Democrats with 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats. We're going to go through each race right now. We'll start off with the safe seats for the Republicans. On the Republican side, we'll start off Alabama and Arkansas. You have Tommy Tuberville in Alabama. It sounds like he's going to run for governor. Ultimately, I still think this will be a safe seat, even if he decides to run for governor and does not run for re-election. Arkansas, you have Tom Cotton, who's running for re-election here. In Kentucky, you have Mitch McConnell, not going to run for re-election. Ultimately, I still think it's going to be a very safe seat for them. Over in Idaho, you go to Jim Risch. This will be, I think he's running for his 4th term in the Senate. Very much a safe seat. Idaho voted for President Trump by 30 points. Not very concerned about this at all. In LA, you have Bill Cassidy. Now, you could see something with a potential primary from the Republican Party. This is a state that voted for President Trump by 18 points in 2020. Actually voted for Trump by 22 in 2024. It voted for Bill Cassidy back in 2020 by 40 points here. Obviously, it is a ranked choice. It's a ranked choice voting system that they have in Louisiana. Republicans, conservatives see this as a big opportunity to oust what they would consider a rhino candidate and install more of a MAGA candidate. So we're going to see what happens. Ultimately, I still have this as a safe Republican seat here. In Mississippi, you have Cindy Hyde-Smith up for re-election. It'll be her 3rd re-election, 2nd re-election, not concerned. Oklahoma, you're going to see Mark Wayne Mullen up for re-election here. Not really concerned about that at all. South Dakota, you have Mike Rounds, Bill Hagerty in Tennessee. In West Virginia, you have Shelley Moore Capito, and then Cynthia Loomis in Wyoming. These are all what I would consider the safe Republican seats going into this election. For the Democrats, we'll start off with Virginia. I have Virginia, actually. I probably have this as like a likely Democrat seat here. We'll see what happens if Glenn Youngkin decides to jump in this race. I have it as a lean. If Youngkin's not in this race, I would probably put it as a safe Democrat seat, but that's kind of where I have it for right now. Rhode Island with Jack Reed, I have this as a safe Republican seat. Jeff Merkley in Oregon. No need to really explain there. Cory Booker, I do have this as a likely Democrat seat. I think the top ticket in New Jersey could really put a lot of support for the Republican Party. I think the Republican Party in New Jersey and in New York has been doing a lot of good things, moving in the right direction. So that's why I have it rated as a likely Democrat seat here. Now, ultimately, you will have Ed Markey in Massachusetts here, not very concerned about this race. Chris Coons in Delaware is up for re-election. New Hampshire's an interesting one. That's Shaheen Shaheen's seat. She's actually not running for re-election here. We'll get to that a little later. But then John Hickenlooper in Colorado. That's where I have for the safe and likely seats here. Now, if we're going to look at the Republicans, too, if you're going to throw the likelies in there, I have Texas as a likely seat right now. And actually, I've even toyed with downgrading it to a lean Republican seat, which for me would be a 1 to 5 percentage point victory here. So we'll see what happens. But I think as of right now, I'm still going to keep this as a likely Republican seat. Same thing with Alaska, likely Republican seat here. Florida, same thing, likely. You have Ashley Moody, who is running in a special election here. Obviously, she replaced Marco Rubio. She's running for a final 2 years in Marco Rubio's term. And then in South Carolina, of course, gosh, how did I forget that? South Carolina, I have Lindsey Graham as I have this as a likely seat here. It really does. Lindsey Graham's going to win re-election. This has been held by 2 people for the last 70 years, Strom Thurmond and Lindsey Graham. Not very worried about this race at all. For the Democrats, I have Illinois, obviously Dick Durbin. We don't have to expand any further on that. Not running for re-election, but ultimately this will be a hold for the Democrat Party. You see people like Rod Blagojevich jumping in this race right now. We'll see. Obviously, a lot still to play out in this election, but right now you have the lieutenant governor, a representative from Illinois, and another representative from Illinois who've all jumped in. The former governor, Rod Blagojevich, who actually spent a lot of time in prison, who Donald Trump pardoned because he allegedly, I'll say, auctioned off President Obama's Senate seat when he became president. So we'll see exactly what happens there. Ohio, I have this as a lean Republican seat. John Husted's running here. Obviously, he replaced J.D. Vance. I think if Sherrod Brown runs again, I think it might be a little closer than it was in 24. Obviously, you saw Bernie Moreno win by about 3 points in the state. I think it could be close. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it could be close, but ultimately, I don't see this go in a different direction, especially if you have Vivek at the top of the ticket. I have a hard time seeing this go in any other direction except voting for the Republican Party here. Now, of course, Montana, I have this as probably a likely Republican seat right here. You go to Nebraska, you have Pete Ricketts, likely seat as well. Kansas, same idea here, that we will not very worried about this seat going into this election. And let's see, who else do we need to talk about? You go to Iowa, you have Joni Ernst. I think this is still going to be a likely Republican seat. New Mexico, this is going to be a likely, if not... I kind of struggle. I go back and forth on this, on do I want to put this as likely? Do I want to put it as lean? How, I believe it's Ben Ray Lujan who's running for re-election here in 2020 when they won here. He won by 6 points. You're kind of right on that cusp of lean to, it's like, I think for now, I'm going to keep this as a lean instead of likely. I'll keep it right here. And then this brings us down to really the competitive states going into this race here. You have Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Maine. And these competitive seats right here are really going to determine the election. As you can see right here, I have the floor for the Republicans at 59 seats, which means, conversely, I have the Democrats at their ceiling at 49 seats going into this election. But we'll go through one by one here. Minnesota, right now you have Tina Smith, the incumbent senator, is not running for re-election. You have Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, who's in this race. You also have Angie Craig, who will be running in this election as well. It's going to be interesting. I would say right now it's you're most likely going to see the Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, get the nomination. I think Angie Craig would perform very well in a general election, but ultimately, the Minnesota Democrats are not looking to be more centrist. They're definitely looking to become much more progressive than they currently are right now. There really is no doubt about that. But if you look at from a cash standpoint, I know we don't have the numbers for the representative Angie Craig in this election. We don't have her financial numbers here, but from her congressional campaign, she has over $1 million cash on hand that will transfer over here. Obviously, a much better cash position than where Peggy Flanagan is. But at the end of the day, grassroots support beats it. That's what beats it at the end of the day. That's what will win this election or this primary in Minnesota, which will make it basically what if we're looking at prediction standpoint. If Peggy Flanagan is leading the ticket, I have this as a tilt to lean, probably a lean state for the Democrats. If Angie Craig gets the nomination, I have this as a likely seat. Right now, it's most likely going to be Peggy Flanagan, just in my opinion, as of right now. So that's why I will have it as a lean Democrat seat as of right now. And on the Republican side, obviously you have Royce White. He ran in 2024 against Amy Klobuchar, lost by, 17 points, 16 points, really just a terrible candidate. It's kind of even a disgrace that he is in this race to begin with. Adam Schwarzy, honestly, I've been saying since the get-go that Tim Pawlenty should jump in this race, but that's just me. Obviously Royce White, huge scandal from his 2024 campaign where he spent over 70% of his funds, of his expenditures, went to credit card processing fees. So obviously, complete mismanagement on a financial side for Royce White. And I think if Royce White is the Republican nominee, this is probably a likely Democrat seat at the end of the day. So we're going to see, but as of right now, I have it as a lean seat in Minnesota. In Michigan, very interesting. It's less, how do I say this? Not set in stone, but there is less consensus of who will be the nominee. Obviously, right now, Gary Peters is not running for re-election. You have a number of different people. Haley Stevens, a representative, Mallory McMarrow, who is a state senator, and Abu El Said, who is the health director for Wayne County. You have people like Rashida Tlaib, Andy Levin, who have expressed some interest running here. Also, Dana Nelson, Nessel, I don't know how to say your last name, to be honest with you, who is the Attorney General in Michigan right now. Obviously, there were some big names, Gretchen Whitmer, Pete Buttigieg, who declined to run in this race, who probably they would have won. Obviously, they have their sights set on 2028 here. But right now, I think it's most likely, they have Gretchen Whitmer in here. I think it most likely will be Haley Stevens who gets this nomination at the end of the day. She's going to have the most appeal statewide in Michigan. On the Republican side, you have Mike Rogers, who lost in 2024 to Alyssa Slotkin. Very, very tight election loss by like 20,000 votes, I believe. He is gearing up for another election in the state. So we're going to see what happens. Also, you have Tudor Dixon, who might jump in here. Yeah, I think Mike Rogers will most likely be the Republican nominee. But as of right now in Michigan, I do have this as a tilt Democrat seat. Just simply by... There's a lot of unknowns right now, but I'm fairly confident to say that as of right now, we have this as a tilt seat in Michigan. And by the way, if I didn't say this already, we are doing this prediction with no toss-ups. No toss-up. You can go to all my other videos. You can see which, I have Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina as toss-ups right now. But in the prediction, we're actually choosing which side we want to go in this. Now, in Georgia, this is going to be a very interesting race right now. Obviously, Jon Ossoff, the most vulnerable senator up for re-election in 2026. Really, we thought that he was going to lose. We thought Brian Kemp was going to jump in this race. That would be just a layup for him. But ultimately, Brian Kemp announced he's not going to run. Good news for the Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not running either. We're going to see what happens. Ultimately, I am going to still put this as a tilt, or for the Republicans. I believe Republicans, this is the best opportunity they have to pick up a seat in this election here. We're going to see ultimately who runs in here, but right now we have Buddy Carter, John King, Mike Collins could run, Tyler Harper, Rich McCormick. You also see people like Brian Jack, who reportedly is a top pick for Donald Trump to run in this race. We're going to see what happens, but I think at the end of the day, we can look at the the hypothetical polling right here. But Jon Ossoff versus a generic Republican, it's dead even. In this same poll here, they told the people who were being polled that Jon Ossoff voted against a bill that would bar mentally ill men from women's sports. The support for the generic Republican went up like 6 points. So all the Republicans need to do, not nominate some crazy person. Candidate quality, you are going to win this race. It's going to be hard. You're still going to have to work. It's not going to be as easy as it was with Brian Kemp. Don't get me wrong. And the AG, who is also very popular in the state, is running to be the next governor, so that eliminates two very popular people. But a generic Republican definitely has an opportunity to flip this seat. In North Carolina, I have this as a tilt Democrat seat as of right now, simply because Tom Tillis is the most vulnerable Republican senator in the Senate, period. Like, no doubt about it. Although the state has voted for Trump the last 3 times around, it is very, very probable that we will see the former governor jump in this race. Roy Cooper, we will most likely see jump in this race. Right now, Wiley Nickel, a former representative, is in the race. I think if Roy Cooper's in this race, he's a very popular governor. He won at the same time that Trump did. You look at the presidential election here. 2020, Trump wins by 1.5 points. On the governor's side, Roy Cooper wins by 4.5 points. Go back to 2016. Cooper wins by 0.25 percentage point. Trump won by 3.5 points. So ultimately, Roy Cooper is very, very popular statewide. He was a 4-term attorney general from the state. Very, very popular governor. Very popular attorney general. I think it's very safe to say that this is a tilt state, but very much still within reach for the Republicans. Now, you go to New Hampshire, I have this as a lean state for the Democrats. Ultimately, I think most of you will know why I have this. Chris Sununu is not running in this race. Ultimately, I had this as a lean Republican state previous to that. Now, we will see, we're going to see him jumping. He will not be running in this race here. It's just as simple as that. Shaheen is not running for re-election. We will see in 2026. Probably Scott Brown is the best opportunity. He was a senator who won a special election in Massachusetts and then ran for this seat actually in 2014. I ultimately think right now on the Democrat side, support is coalescing behind Chris Pappas. I think it's going to be difficult. I think it's within striking distance, but Republicans, it's kind of getting further and further out of reach. Similar thing that we saw in Georgia. You have a governor, very popular in the state, who is not running in the Senate race. Something that you just have to deal with. And then moving to Maine. Maine, I have this as a lean Republican state. Susan Collins has been in the Senate since 1996. She won her initial election by 5.5 points, and every election since then, she has basically increased her margin every year until 2020 when it collapsed pretty big, but still, she was projected to lose this race. There was like half of the prediction agencies were predicting that she was going to lose this race. She ended up still winning by almost 9 percentage points in this race. Susan Collins knows what she is doing, and she knows where to break with the Republican Party when it matters at the end of the day. That brings a lot of appeal to her in the state. I think, and the fact that Republicans are willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising in the state, I think it's very, very safe to say that this will be a big target for the Democrats, but ultimately I believe that I think her margin will collapse. I think we will see this probably closer to 5-6 points at the end of the day, but I do not see Democrats picking up this seat as of right now. So this is my official prediction as of right now. Republicans will hold. Obviously, there's going to be some mix-up. We're going to trade Georgia for North Carolina in this race. But ultimately, I have Republicans holding at 53 seats, Democrats holding at 47 seats. This is my official prediction for May. That is going to wrap things up for today, folks. As always, drop down below if you have some comments, if there's something you disagree with, if there's a point you'd like me to cover in another video, drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear exactly what you have to say here. And as always, the best way to support our channel is hitting that subscribe button. So we would really appreciate it. It's free, it costs nothing, and there's nothing but upside for our channel to reach more and more people. So we appreciate your support. And as always, we will catch you next time, folks.